Welcome to the Henry George Daily Devotional number 33, episode 33, book 2, chapter 3, Inferences from Analogy. We were talking about vegetable and animal kingdoms reproducing at the rate that is faster and pushes up against subsistence and faster than humans. But mankind is able to cultivate this to their own advantage and can make food increase as they increase. Let's get to reading. The demand for quantity once satisfied, he seeks quality. This is what George is saying of the human. The very desires that he has in common with the beast become extended, refined, exalted. It is not merely hunger but taste that seeks gratification in food. In clothes, this is so true, Do you imagine just eating, I don't know, berries all day, every day, all day, every day? In clothes, he seeks not merely comfort, but adornment. The rude shelter becomes a house. Also, those berries probably aren't nearly as tasty as the weird berries we've hybridized. I'll continue. He seeks not merely comfort, but adornment. Also, when I was like 10, my mom, through some weird experimental thing, said, you know what? You want strawberry ice cream so bad, and you fight me over it, I'm gonna you can only eat strawberry ice cream until you are sick of it. And I think I went like 3 days only eating strawberry ice cream. Do I have the best mom ever? Seems like it's a contender. I think she gave up. I think she gave up and she said, "Nope, I'm going back on my word. No more strawberry ice cream." I don't recall being super upset at that point, but I think I held out. All right. Seeks gratification in food, says George. In clothes, he seeks not merely comfort but adornment. The rude shelter becomes a house. The undiscriminating sexual attraction begins to transmute itself into subtle influences. Yeah. And the hard and common stock of animal life to blossom and to bloom into shapes of delicate beauty. As power to gratify his wants increases, so does aspiration grow. Held down to lower levels of desire, Lucullus will sup with Lucullus. I don't know who this guy is. Who is Lucullus? Lucius Licinius Lucullus was a Roman general and statesman closely connected with Lucius Cornelius Sulla. What? I don't care. 12 boars turn on spits that Antony's mouthful of meat may be done to a turn. Every kingdom of nature be ransacked to add to Cleopatra's charms, and marble colonnades and hanging gardens and pyramids that rival the hills arise. Passing into higher forms of desire, that which slumbered in the plant and fitfully stirred in the beast awakens in the man. The eyes of the mind are opened, and he longs to know. He braves the scorching heat of the desert and the icy blasts of the polar sea, but not for food. He watches all night, but it is to trace the circling of the eternal stars. He adds toil, to gratify a hunger no animal has felt, to assuage a thirst no beast can know. I think I pronounced that word correctly. Out upon nature, in upon himself, back through the mists that shroud the past, forward into the darkness that overhangs the future, turns the restless desire that arises when the animal wants slumber in satisfaction. Beneath things he seeks the law. He would know how the globe was forged and the stars were hung, and trace to their origins the springs of life. And then, as the man develops his nobler nature, there arises the desire higher yet, the passion of passions, the hope of hopes, the desire that he, even he, may somehow aid in making life better and brighter, in destroying want and sin, sorrow and shame. He masters and curbs the animal. He turns his back upon the feast and renounces the place of power. He leaves it to others to accumulate wealth, to gratify pleasant tastes, to bask themselves in the warm sunshine of the brief day. He works for those he never saw and never can see, for a fame, or maybe but for a scant justice, that can only come long after the clods have rattled upon his coffin lid. He toils in the advance where it is cold, and there's little cheer from men, and the stones are sharp and the brambles thick. Amid the scoffs of the present and the sneers that stab like knives, he builds for the future. He cuts the trail that progressive humanity may hereafter broaden into a high road, into higher, grander spheres. Desire mounts and beckons, and a star that rises in the east leads him on. Lo, the pulses of the man throb with the yearnings of the God he would aid in the process of the suns. Is not the gulf too wide for the analogy to span? Give more food, open fuller conditions of life, and the vegetable or animal can but multiply. The man will develop. In the one, the expansive force can but extend existence in new numbers. In the other, it will inevitably tend to extend existence in higher forms and wider powers. Man is an animal, but he is an animal plus something else. He is the mythic earth tree, whose roots are in the ground, but whose topmost branches may blossom in the heavens. Whichever way it may be turned, the reasoning by which this theory of the constant tendency of population to press against the limits of subsistence is supported shows an unwarranted assumption, an undistributed middle, as the logicians would say. Facts do not warrant it. Analogy does not countenance it. It is a pure chimera of the imagination, such as those that for a long time prevented men from recognizing the rotundity and motion of the earth. It is just such a theory as that underneath us everything not fastened to the earth must fall off, or that a ball dropped from the mast of a ship in motion must fall behind the mast. As that a live fish placed in a vessel full of water will displace no water, it is as unfounded, if not as gross as an assumption we can imagine Adam might have made had he been of an arithmetical turn of mind and figured on the growth of his first baby from the rate of its early months. From the fact that at birth it weighed 10 pounds and in 8 months thereafter 20 pounds, he might, with the arithmetical knowledge which some sages have supposed him to possess, have ciphered out a result quite as striking as that of Mr. Malthus, namely, that by the time it got to be 10 years old it would be as heavy as an ox, at 12 as heavy as an elephant, and at 30 would weigh no less than 175,716,339,548 tons. The fact is, that would be a very fat 30-year-old son. The fact is, there is no more reason for us to trouble ourselves about the pressure of population upon subsistence than there was for Adam to worry himself about the rapid growth of his baby. So far as an inference is really warranted by facts, and suggested by analogy, it is that the law of population includes such beautiful adaptations as investigation has already shown in other natural laws, and that we are no more warranted in assuming that the instinct of reproduction in the natural development of society tends to produce misery and vice, than we should be in assuming that the force of gravitation must hurl the moon to the earth and the earth to the sun, or than in assuming from the contraction of water with reductions of temperature down to 32 degrees that rivers and lakes must freeze to the bottom with every frost. And they don't, by the way, for those of you who don't live near lakes, they only freeze at the top for a few inches. And the only, yeah, especially also there's weird things that happen when you get higher and higher pressure. Like the freezing point gets a little lower, maybe. It gets very hard to actually, yeah. I don't remember. There's a lot of different forces to consider. Alright, back to George. The temperate regions of the earth be thus rendered uninhabitable by even moderate winters. That besides the positive and prudential checks of Malthus, there is a third check which comes into play with the elevation of the standard of comfort, the elevation of the standard of comfort and the development of the intellect, is pointed to by many well-known facts. The proportion of births is notoriously greater in new settlements, where the struggle with nature leaves little opportunity for intellectual life, and among the poverty-bound classes of older countries who in the midst of wealth are deprived of all its advantages, and reduced to all but an animal existence. The proportion of birth is notoriously greater in these examples than it is among the classes to whom the increase of wealth has brought independence, leisure, comfort, and a fuller and more varied life. This fact, long ago recognized in the homely adage, "A rich man for luck and a poor man for children," was noted by Adam Smith, who says it is not uncommon to find a poor half-starved Highland woman who has been the mother of 23 or 24 children, and is everywhere so clearly perceptible that it is only necessary to allude to it. Yeah, that is pretty wild. If the real law of population is thus indicated, as I think it must be, then the tendency to increase, instead of being always uniform, is strong where a greater population would give increased comfort, and where the perpetuity of the race is threatened by the mortality induced by adverse conditions, but weakens as the higher development of the individual becomes possible and the perpetuity of the race is assured. In other words, the law of population accords with and is subordinate to the law of intellectual development, and any danger that human beings may be brought into a world where they cannot be provided for arises not from the ordinances of nature, but from social maladjustments that in the midst of wealth condemn men to want. The truth of this will, I think, be conclusively demonstrated when, after having cleared the ground, we trace out the true laws of social growth. But it would disturb the natural order of the argument to anticipate them now. If I have succeeded in maintaining a negative, in showing that the Malthusian theory is not proved by the reasoning by which it is supported, it is enough for the present. In the next chapter, I propose to take the affirmative and show that it is disproved by facts. I'm persuaded, George, that yeah, it is not supported, and then here we have some facts that we're gonna bust out, huh? All right, and then we start book 3. Yippee! All right, see you next time.